Welcome to Making HERstory. This isn't polished success stories. This is the fire, the chaos, the gut punch truth of women who refuse to play small. The real, feral stories. The messy, bold, audacious stories that flip the table and set shit on fire. This is where we roar. It's Ashley Crabb. Buckle up, babe. We're making HERstory.
Hello. Welcome to the very last episode of Making HERstory, the last episode of 2025. I can hardly believe it. And if you're listening and if you've been tuning in for, the last, I think this is episode like 14 or 15. So, okay, we haven't been at it like forever, but we've consistently showed up every single week since the podcast has launched. And I think that is a great way to segue into the fact that the woman I started becoming this year is so done showing up half-assed. And I think you are too. Like, that's why you're here, right? Because we're like balls to the walls, all in, baby. And that is the woman that I started to embody this year. In case we haven't met yet, it's Ashley Crabb, the only story-driven experience curator for bold, feral as fuck women who are done following the rule books they've been handed. I turn raw, unpolished truths into brands, events, movements that leave a legacy, creating transformation through truth, not performance, polish, or perfection. I help you build your business, your work, your life with audacious, rooted realness. I know that when I started working, like, this has been freaking ingrained in me since I started working. I believed that success meant hustle. Hustle. I thought that visibility meant performing to someone else's standards, performing to someone else's narrative, making my show here on earth the performance that somebody else wanted to see. And that type of mindset, that type of belief system had finally burned me out. It kept burning me out, and I kept calling it freaking discipline. I kept calling it motivation. I kept calling it drive. And I felt like if I wasn't exhausted, I wasn't doing enough. And I realized this year, the year of the snake, that story is shedding for all of us. All of us are shedding the narrative that we have to, 1, perform, and 2, hustle to the extent that meets somebody else's expectations. And that doesn't mean that we don't hold expectations to ourselves, but that means that we are done meeting the expectations of people that hold no power over the story of our lives. And the women who are rising right now, the women that I have seen rise this year, they are not necessarily the women who have been screaming the loudest. I got a loud voice, so we know I love to be loud. And sometimes I don't mean loud in the actual volume that I use, but sometimes the strongest of us and the ones who are rising the most are also the ones who are doing it quietly. We are the ones who are finally inhabiting ourselves, inhabiting and embodying who we are and the purpose that we were put here to have. This year was not fucking easy. Like, it was not. I don't think it was easy for a lot of us. And that doesn't mean that it wasn't a good year. It just means that you pick your heart. And it was heavy in ways out of our control. It was also demanding. This year demanded of me, of you, to get so fucking clear on your desires and your dreams and the light inside of you and this magnet that you are. This year demanded that you recognize that and you get clear on that. For me at least. But I know that I watched other women do the exact same thing. I watched other women work really, really fucking hard. I watched women leave jobs, careers, 9 to 5s that they've been in for over a decade. I watched women launch businesses that they were scared shitless to launch because they didn't think they had it in them. I watched women who never thought that they were going to become mothers. I watched women leave relationships that no longer serve them. I watched women show up for themselves, for their families, for their businesses. I was that woman. I showed up for myself, for my family, for my business. I showed up for my healing. I showed up for the woman that I chose to become, the woman that I am still becoming. And I didn't show up perfectly. I didn't show up perfectly at all. And sometimes I showed up loudly, and sometimes I showed up a little more quiet. Sometimes I showed up with that questioning, and I don't think questioning is always wrong. I can't think of a different word for it right now, but self-doubt isn't it, but like, you show up even though you have those what ifs in your head, right? And the point is that we fucking showed up. We showed up honestly. We showed up honestly in our truths, in who we are, in what we're after, in what we believe. And we just, I feel like I saw one of the greatest shifts I've ever seen this year, because the women who made in my world, the women, me and the other women in my world, the women who made the biggest moves this year were not necessarily hustling harder, hustling more. I know we did more. I know we worked really fucking hard, but it wasn't in hustle mode. It wasn't in fight or flight mode. It wasn't in survival mode. It was in this intentional, deeply embodied mode. And that's what I want to talk about, because every year changes me. Every year changes us, right? But this year changed me in an innately different way. It changed me in the way I showed up. It changed me in the way I decided to tell my story, in the way I decided to help other women tell their stories, in the way that I decided to build not just my business, but my life. All of it shifted. All of it shifted because I decided to make the shift. Even though I was scared, even though I was freaking exhausted, even though I was like, there has to be an easier way, right? But no, you pick your hard. Every way is going to be hard. So pick your freaking hard. And I picked my hard. Like, there were moments in this year where I wanted to quit. I wanted to burn it all down. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and say this year was the year that I finally didn't want to burn it down, because there were moments. There were moments. I had moments where I wanted to quit this podcast. Like really, really quit this podcast. I wanted to never record another episode again. Or I had some moments where I was like, I'll just take a break and then get back at it. Or maybe I'll just taper down. Like I all of these things, right? Because after that first month of showing up every week, of editing podcast episodes, like, I felt overwhelmed. I felt behind. I felt unsure. Like, was my voice landing? Do I even know what I'm doing? Who the hell am I to think I deserve this platform? Like, can I hold this? Can I hold this vision? And old me would have burned it down. Old me would have taken those moments of what ifs and I would have said, fuck it. I would have said, you know what, let's do something different. Let's try something else. And instead of doing that, instead of making a huge dramatic pivot, instead of making a choice that would have derailed, 60 days of super hard work, instead of convincing myself that I needed to start over or start something different, I didn't. I asked for help. And I kept going. And I am so fucking proud of myself for that, because that was the moment in my business, and honestly, the biggest moment in my business, that I knew that something was different, because I didn't hustle my way through it. I didn't give up. I didn't try to push myself further into frustration and exhaustion. I stayed and I reflected and I refined and I allowed things to evolve without abandoning myself, without abandoning and derailing everything that I had worked on, right? And that was new for me, because in the past I would have tried to fix everything super fast, make it louder, make it tighter, make it more marketable. But this time I slowed down. And I listened. Instead of panicking my way through shit, I listened. I trusted the work. I trusted myself. And I stopped trying to prove that I deserve to be here. This was the year that I decided I was worthy of embodying everything that I knew I brought to the table. I stopped trying to tell my story from this place of not pick me energy, but an energy that was still trying to follow the fucking rule books, right? And I just started to tell my story from a place of truth, from a place that actually felt like mine, that felt like me. And I think so much of that had to do with the fact that my story changed. So I had to change with it. And the way that I was telling it had to change, because for the first time this year, I invested in myself. I hired a business coach in August. I hired my first ever business coach, and that changed the trajectory of my business and honestly my life forever. And I will 10/10 tell you to hire a coach again and again and again. Hire a business coach, hire a relationship coach, hire a life coach, a mentor, a spiritual guide, go to fucking therapy, because I started that this year too. Lean on someone who, one, you trust, two, who understands you, two, who sees you, who hears you, who you feel safe with, and just do it. Ask for help and lean on others, because I became stronger when I started building a village for me, just for me, This year I learned, at almost 33 years old, that I have ADHD. I was late diagnosed with ADHD, and that made so much sense in my life. We're going to have to do another whole, episode on this, because I actually haven't talked about it a lot on the podcast. But that diagnosis and recognizing how my brain works has changed everything for me. And it's also brought on a lot of emotions and a lot of learning and letting go of judgment and trying to let go of some resentment, a lot of things, right? But that also, learning that was so powerful. We'll have to go down that road a different time. I sent my boys to preschool. When I had my boys, I was going to be a 100% stay-at-home mom. I was going to homeschool, homestead, crunchy, chickens, you name it, and things changed. And I sent my boys to preschool. And they love it. They love it so much. They are so happy. And I'm happy that they're happy. And I'm happy that I get a couple of hours a week to myself uninterrupted. You know, again, leaning on my village. Leaning on my village. And realizing that I don't have to do anything in this life by pretending. I don't have to pretend to be anyone. I don't have to pretend to know anything. I don't have to pretend to feel anything. I don't have to do this alone. I don't have to do any of this from a place of not knowing my worth, right? Like, I get to be successful because I know my worth and I define my success. And because of that mindset shift, my work shifted. Like, I feel like my voice matured in this sense because I finally owned it. I finally claimed and owned my raw, honest, magnetic, feral as fuck voice. And because of that, like, it matured. Maybe I'll find a better word, but I kind of like that one. My boundaries sharpened. The no's and the yeses, because I think boundaries go both ways. We always think of boundaries as like cutting the chopping block, but you know, I mean, I set boundaries in positive ways too, I feel like. My leadership grounded, you know, since August especially, I've just felt different. I felt like all of these things, voice, leadership, legacy, like they just feel different because I feel like this year I stopped chasing alignment and I just started living in alignment. And I know that I still have a lot of work to do, right? Like we all do. But I think that like as we shift into the new year and we think about all of the things we're doing, like I want you to think about your story. I really, really, really want you to think about your story. And I don't want you to think about it as like a marketing trend. I don't want you to think about it as pick me energy. I don't want you to think about it like as a tactic. It is a strategy, but it's not something that like you need to perfect. It's not something that needs to be discovered. Like your story and you telling your story is how we have always found each other. As humans, storytelling is how we've always connected. And I think that's why not just platforms, like not just social media platforms or, you know, YouTube or Substack or whatever platform you're on, right? But events too, movements that are happening, just the way we're showing up for each other in our communities. Like there is a shift that I feel is happening so hard right now outside of like trends and whatever, because we are so tired of just simply being sold to. We are so tired of being sold lies. Like we want the truth. We want to fucking feel something again. Like we want that resonance of belonging, of understanding, of collectiveness, right? And that's why I feel like the women who are going to lead in 2026, and that is however you lead. I don't just mean business women. I don't just mean entrepreneurs, you know, podcasters, artists, small business owners, mothers, women in general, women at large. The women who are going to lead in 2026 are not necessarily the ones who are performing the best versions of themselves. And like, if you can see me now, I got air quotes all over the place because I think there's also this really big disconnect sometimes, because when I'm all like, don't be professional, don't be perfect, don't be polished. Like I still have standards. I still have standards. There are still a level of standards, and you do want to be the best version of yourself. But that best version of yourself is the truth that you embody without flinching. The best version of yourself is the woman who you truly are, right? And so that's the work that you need to do. Yes, strategies help. Yes, understanding content or selling or whatever it is that your specialty is, right? Like, that matters, you know? Having a voice matters. Being heard matters, you know? Being loud in the sense of you are proud of the message that you are sharing, right? Be deep in that presence. Be deep in your belief of yourself. Be so deeply rooted in the fact that you are audacious enough to show up in all your glory, right? That is the movement that we're building. That's the movement that I'm building. I want women to claim their stories, to fucking own them, and to roar them into the world. And that doesn't mean that you have to be loud. That doesn't mean that you have to be obnoxious. That doesn't mean that you have to be flashy. When I say roar, when I say loud, when I say unpolished and without professionalism and perfectionism, I just mean be you. Be you. And be proud of that, right? You know, because that's what I'm doing. And not because I think that it's the best, you know, thing to sell a business or to make money. Like, deciding to show up, deciding, one, to write my story, to own my story to myself, and then deciding to show up as the woman who has lived that story and is still creating it, and then deciding that I wasn't going to hide it anymore to anyone. Like, that saved me. That saved me. I decided to do all of that to save myself first. And everything else just follows that, because you're the foundation of everything you're building around you, your business, your life, your family. Like, you're the foundation. So build you. Build you, you know? Because I know that if you're listening to this, something is pulling you to tell your story differently. Something is pulling you to live differently, to lead differently. And not differently in a way that abandons yourself, differently in a way that brings you home to you. Because that's what feral is, baby. Feral is coming home to you. You know that the end of the year, everyone's scrambling and they're like, goals, resolutions. I didn't do enough this year. What should I do next year? I'm in purgatory between Christmas and New Year's, if that's what you celebrate. But like, you are not late. You do not need to rush. You are right on time. If you are showing up embodied in who you want to be, even if you're just starting out, even if you're still figuring out who that is, you are right on time, because you are choosing to make that change, make these choices, make this transformation now. This is the season, baby. This is our freaking season. Like, we're not explaining ourselves anymore. We're not justifying ourselves anymore. We're not shrinking our voices anymore just to make other people feel comfortable. Where we stop chasing rooms. This is the year where we stop chasing rooms and start fucking building them. Building them from the ground up, right? Skyscrapers. And I am just so honored to have had those of you along for the journey since August. Or if you've been here longer than that, I am honored to have you along on this journey. And I am so proud of so many of us, of myself, for everything we've done in 2025. And I am so fucking excited for 2026. Like when I tell you 2026 is the year, like the year. Should I say the year again? Because it's the year of the horse, baby. It's the year of the horse. If you're into all of that stuff, go look it up. But this is the year that I just feel big things, stepping into my true purpose. So many of you stepping into your true purpose and fully embodying that, just lighting the fucking flame to the fire, the light that we are meant to be. I know we're going to do it. And I just can't wait. And I hope that you continue along with me. If you want to walk deeper into this work with me, here's where we start. Follow me on Instagram at It's Ashley Crabb. Download the Tell Your Story Fire Starter and start turning your truth into connection. Write it all out. And if you are ready for some real clarity, some deeper clarity, if you want to have a one-on-one conversation, book a 30-minute vibe check call with me and let's fucking burn the blueprint together. Let's start talking about what you're ready to leave behind in 2025 and all that you want to embody in 2026. Let's build something that actually fits you and the woman you are. Because we're not just building brands here. We're not just building businesses here. We are building movements. We are building legacies. We are building belonging, and we are making herstory. Thank you so much for spending the last couple of months with 2025 with me, and I cannot wait to blaze a trail in 2026 with you.
You've been listening to Making HERstory. Remember, your story isn't optional. It's your fire, your power, and the heartbeat of every space you build. So take up space, tell it raw, and keep building the kind of legacy that can't be ignored. It's Ashley Crabb, and I'll be back with more bold, brave, feral stories soon. And if you want to stay feral with me, hit subscribe, share this with your sisters, and let's make HERstory louder together.